So now we're ready to do some prep before we add the decorative paper. And I want to do some painting of edges so that we'll have that nice white reveal around the paper that I've chosen. You can paint any color you want. It's purely personal preference. So we're going to paint the inside of all the wall tops here and come in about 1/4 of an inch on the ground level all around. Then it's not necessary to do the exact tops of the wall, but make sure you come up to the tops of these edges. So it may be just easier to paint the tops of the wall. We're going to cover them up, but it's just easier maybe to paint them. And then we want to make sure we get all of the edges in about 1/4 of an inch and all of the joins all the way around. The other thing we want to paint is some strips that you'll cut from either medium weight or lightweight chipboard. It doesn't matter which it is. It might be easier for you to cut the lightweight chipboard. I have a guillotine cutter, so it makes easy work of medium weight chipboard. So either way, but these strips are 3/16 of an inch wide. That's 1/16 of an inch, less than 1/4 of an inch. And they're going to go right here to finish up the tops of the walls very nicely and neatly. So I would paint all the sides of these just to make it easier when you go to install them. So painting edges and prepping for decorative paper, and I'll be back when I've accomplished that. So I've finished all my painting, and it doesn't look like much now, but all of this will get covered up, or most of it will, so it doesn't matter if it's pretty or not at this point. So I've painted all my edges on both levels, and also I prepped 5 of these 3/16 inch strips that will go on top of the walls and finish them off nicely. The other thing I've done in preparation for covering the walls with paper is to go around and measure how big I want each panel. They're all on level 2, 3 1/8 inch tall, but each one is a different width depending on how long it is and how much of a reveal that you want to have. Now piece G here, I'm not going to cut that separately because once I join these together, I'm going to do one, this is flush here between the 2 levels, and I'll cut one piece that covers both F from level 3 and G from level 2. But I think it will be easier to put the panels on if I haven't glued this all together. And also there's one panel here, G, that you can see it gets kind of hidden behind level 2 here. And so I want to put my paper on there first, and I've drawn a line, and I'll just extend the paper down beyond that a little bit so that when the 2 sections come together, that the edge of the paper will be hidden. And so I've done that, all of those measurements, and getting ready to prep my paper. Also to go on the inside of the walls here, I'm going to cut strips that are about 5/8 of an inch tall to finish those off. And then let's talk about the floors or the ground level. So it depends on what you want to put on here. I haven't quite decided yet. It'll either be pattern paper or embossed cardstock. I'm leaning kind of right now towards embossed cardstock. But anyway, I need to have a template that's the size of the finished floor. Now, as you recall, we added a 1/16 inch layer of chipboard on the inside of our template of our levels, so that if this is our original level 2 template, you can see it's not quite fitting exactly. But it may, depending on how things are going, it may be fairly close now. So what I will do is just reuse this, kind of push it down here and use my fingernail to score to make this into a template for the wall. I'm sorry, for the ground or the floor. And I'll do the same thing for level 3. That way I can reuse my template without having to print anything else out, since I don't need it anymore for the for construction. So that's what I'm going to do. I have paper choices for my walls. I probably will go ahead and put them on just temporarily, in case once I get finished with the buildings, I decide that something better would show off the buildings. So I'll be back when I've got that accomplished. I'm going to put the finishing touches now on level 2 and 3. I have cut out some base paper. It took me a while to decide on what color, but I think I'm going to be happy with this kind of bluish grayish that I did spray some of this white linen dilution spray on to give it the illusion of snow. I wanted something again that the buildings would contrast with. I thought about white, but it was a little too stark for me. So hopefully you all agree that this was a good choice, and we're moving on. So I have glued the two sections together. I have also glued the two stairways in where they go. They just fit right in, so there's nothing special about that. And I did take a little bit of the blue paper and put it on the steps just to continue that pattern down the stairways as well. So now I am going to finish off the inside walls and the tops of the wall. And I think that I talked about cutting these strips already. They're cut 5/8 of an inch wide, and I think what I'm going to do is just butt them up so it's more like a continuous strip that goes all around here, rather than having different joins as at the bends in the wall. So I'm just going to use some white glue and continue those strips all along the inside of both level 2 and then the inside up here of level 3, and then I'll be back with the next step. So now I've finished going around all the inside of the walls, and that was a pretty quick and easy job to do. And now I'm ready to finish off these top edges. You might recall that we prepped a bunch of little strips when we were doing our painting prep, and I also went back and added some embossing ink and put some embossing powder on them just to add a little sheen to the top. Certainly not necessary, but something I just wanted to do. So now I'm going to work my way around, cutting angles as I go. And you know, you could work with some butt joints, but some of these you're going to have, you know, the angles would have to be cut. So I'm just putting my X-Acto knife where that joint needs to be and making a mark, and then taking it off to do the actual cutting. And then putting a little bead of glue for that section. And what I'll do here is alternate between working on the level 3 and working on level 2, and that'll give the glue to set up so that as I move to the next piece I don't dislodge the first piece here. So we'll let that glue set up, and I'll come up here and work on something on level 3. And it will come, this end needs to be cleaned up a little. And at the end I might have to come back and touch up with paint a little bit. That's okay. And so again, I'm going to just come in here, mark for that angle. Should put the glue over here, not on my little piece. Just hold that for a second. Now I could do this piece over here. Just come in here and measure the length of it. If you wait about 10 seconds before you put the piece on to allow that glue bead to get just a little tacky, then it'll grip better, I find. Got plenty of glue there. I think you can already see what a nice finish that's going to be to the top of the walls. So now this first piece should be set up enough for me to come in here and mark and cut the next piece. So I'm just going to proceed around the top of the building, kind of alternating, going back and forth, and putting these pieces in. I think I'll stay with you for one more, just to mark one of these angles that's not a right angle. Now, if cutting all these little pieces is too fiddly for you, you could try putting something that might cause, well, paint would be okay, but you know, a ribbon or something that beads up along there to just finish that edge off nicely. Keep my wet wipe handy because it's kind of a messy job with that glue, and you don't want to carry glue on to the next piece. Okay, so let's come down here and mark this one. And what I do is I just kind of look at this angle. Let me take this off. I look at this angle and I try to just bisect it so that the angle that's created by my blade to this wall is about the same as the angle from the blade to the next wall. Now actually this angle that I just cut is the correct angle to move on across here, but because I only put embossing on one side of this, and also it's too short, I'll just use this piece to mark the angle on a new strip here. So making sure I have it oriented the correct way. I'm just going to put it down here and use it as a little template. And now this piece, you see, it's just the right angle to move in there. So once you cut one, you'll be able to either flip it if both sides are finished the same way, or else use it as a template to cut the next piece. So just work your way around on all the edges, and that'll finish up the walls for level 2 and 3.